The past 7 seasons of Game of Thrones have left us with a lot of questions. Who? What? Why? And how? Seriously though, there are only 6 episodes left in the entire series, and we have a whole lot of questions that need to be answered before the Iron Throne gets its new occupant. Number 1, what will Gendry's ultimate importance be? Gendry Baratheon, well technically Gendry Waters, the surname given to bastards of the Crownlands, has played a bigger role in the show than in the book so far. Sure, he's a bastard, but he's also the last living Baratheon heir. He's also a skilled blacksmith, fighter, and apparently ultra-marathon runner. I'm a running just as fast as I can. An impressive skill set for sure, but what role will he play in the war for the Iron Throne? We know that the key to defeating the Night King and his army lies in Valyrian steel and dragonglass, so could Gendry be the smith who knows the lost art of creating weapons with both? Number 2, how will Jon and Daenerys react to the truth about his parentage? For a long time, Jon and Daenerys hooking up was just a book reader's fantasy, that is, until it actually happened on the show last season. So the question is, how will they A, find out that they're related, and B, both react to the news that they're doing the dirty with a direct relative? Will they compete against each other for the Iron Throne? I doubt it, since Jon doesn't seem to want that gig. It seems more likely that they would rule together like Targaryen brothers and sisters of old. But I guess it's aunt and nephew in this case. That is, if they even survive the whole thing. Number 3, is Cersei really pregnant and Dany really barren? Last season, Cersei made it pretty clear in conversations with both Jaime and Tyrion that she was expecting a child. She seemed genuine about it at the time, but then again, can we ever really trust Cersei? She's extremely manipulative, and this could all be a ploy to tug at her brother's heartstrings. Also, that's a hell of a lot of wine for a pregnant woman to be drinking. Just saying. On the flip side, it's been long assumed that Dany is unable to have children following her miscarriage in Season 1 and what we've learned in the books. But last season, multiple characters raised the question of succession. Were these hints? Jon even suggested to Dany that the witch Mira Maz-Dur may have been lying when she declared Dany infertile. With the release of A Dance with Dragons back in 2011, readers developed multiple theories that the Mother of Dragons might eventually be able to bear children. And given how Season 7 ended, Jon and Dany are certainly putting that theory to the test. Number 4, will we finally get Clegane Bowl? The showdown between the Hound and the Mountain has been a long time coming. In the books, theories about Clegane Bowl run wild, even though the Hound seems to have retired to a quiet life in the Riverlands. But in the show at least, we saw the pair briefly spar way back in Season 1. In the Season 7 finale, they finally reunited in a tense stare-down.
What do they do to you? Doesn't matter. That's not how it ends for you, brother. You know who's coming for you. You've always known.
Who do you think blinked first? Even if the Mountain is more zombie than man at this point, his brother is planning for some big-time revenge. Get hype. Number 5, what was the point of Quaithe? Remember this woman? No? Well, don't worry, it was way back in Season 2. Quaithe was the mysterious woman Jorah encountered back in Qarth. The masked figure appeared just a couple times to pass along some cryptic warnings, and then she disappeared completely. In the books, she plays a much bigger role throughout Dany's journey. She directs, helps, and motivates Dany in times of peril. It seems Quaithe understands the importance of Dany's dragons and keeping them in her control. But exactly why is she so helpful? Hopefully the show will take the opportunity to explain. Number 6, will Arya ever finish her murder list? Arya's been keeping a list of every douchebag she wants to kill since the early days. She got the idea back in Season 2 after speaking with Yoren, a brother of the Night's Watch.
It got to the point where I would say his name every night before I went to bed. Willem. 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 A prayer, almost.
Even now, with her considerable skills as an assassin, she isn't done. Last season, she acknowledged the list more than once, which suggests it's one plot point that will eventually find resolution. The biggest name remaining on that list? That has to be Cersei.
I thought you might go to King's Landing.
So did I.
Why would you go back there?
Cersei's on her list of names.
The only problem is a whole lot of people want her dead as well. Arya will undoubtedly have a whole lot of competition for that honor. Number 7, will the Valonqar prophecy come true? Speaking of killing Cersei, here's another book theory. Jaime will ultimately murder his sister lover. This relates back to Cersei's flashback during Season 5. in which a witch told her she'd marry the king and her children would wear golden crowns but ultimately die. In the same scene in the books, the witch also told Cersei that she'd be killed by the Valonqar, which is High Valyrian for little brother. This fear contributed to her lifelong hatred of Tyrion, but technically her twin Jaime is younger than her too. We definitely need someone to end Cersei's reign of terror, and as hard as it might be for him, Jaime might be the one to do it. Number 8, who else will ride a dragon? Fans of the books have spent years speculating about the dragon with 3 heads prophecy. A couple things to note here. First, who else will eventually ride a dragon besides Dany? An obvious second rider would seem to be Jon, considering he's actually Aegon Targaryen. As for the third rider, have we already seen him? You know, the Night King. Does he count? Or could Bran warg into one of the dragons? Would he even be considered a rider? Or what about Tyrion, who's long been rumored to be a Targaryen? Remember, instead of roasting Tyrion, Rhaegal and Viserion seem to like him.
I'm friends with your mother.
And if that's the case, the prophecy might refer to these 3 Targaryens, not just their dragons, who would be left to rule Westeros. What is the White Walker's ultimate goal? Few things in Game of Thrones are ever as black and white as the simple battle between good and evil. So far, everything we've seen from the White Walkers and their undead army suggests they're nothing more than frosty zombies. But if that's the case, if killing to kill is their only goal, it will be a massive disappointment. Hopefully, Season 8 will explain the White Walkers' motivation for their murderous march down south, adding some nuance to the bad guys versus good guys story. Number 10, who is Azor Ahai, aka the Prince That Was Promised, and what about Lightbringer? The legend and prophecy of Azor Ahai, aka the Prince That Was Promised, could ultimately refer to any number of characters. As we learned from Missandei's translation in Season 7, it may be a princess that was promised.
That noun has no gender in High Valyrian, so the proper translation for that prophecy would be the prince or princess who was promised will bring the dawn.
Doesn't really roll off the tongue, does it?
Given how the show likes to subvert the usual fantasy tropes, it's unlikely any one character will ultimately rise up as the hero. However, the final season will likely spark an eternal debate about who ultimately fulfilled the prophecy best. That is, if the conclusion is anything like what George likely had planned for the books. As for Azor Ahai's legendary sword Lightbringer, the book describes a weapon that exudes heat and light, a sword made of living fire. But in order to forge the weapon that could defeat the darkness, the prince was forced to sacrifice his own wife. Is it possible that Jon will need to take Dany's life? Now, we've seen burning swords on this show before. Stannis's was an illusion crafted by Melisandre, and Beric's and Thoros' swords didn't seem quite as legendary as Lightbringer has been described. Chances are we'll find out if it's a real thing or just a tall tale, as the show has referenced it before. What is the link between Bran and the Night King? When Bran and the Night King made contact back in Season 6, all hell broke loose. There clearly seems to be some sort of link between the two. Fans have even speculated that Bran somehow becomes the Night King. This is primarily because not only have we seen Bran travel back in time, but we've also seen him change it. In addition, they both seem like the only ones with significant green-seeing abilities. Whatever their relationship is, the question will have to be answered in the final season. Number 12, who will end up on the Iron Throne? You knew we were going to end on this one, right? Given that this is the ultimate question and one of the biggest motivations of the entire series, we have no doubt Season 8 will give us an answer, even if the Night King gets his way and there's no one left alive to sit on that throne. Be sure to subscribe to Universe so you don't miss this season of GameSpot of Thrones, where we will break down every single episode of Season 8. If you're looking for more questions that we have, check out Mike Rougeau's 27 questions Season 8 needs to answer over on GameSpot.com. And let us know what questions you want answered in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.